For centuries, the Galactic Council ignored the small green world called Arden 9, a distant colony at the edge of the Orion Arm. Too far to be important, too quiet to be dangerous, they listed it as a low-value agricultural colony and forgot it existed. To them it was just a farming outpost run by a few hundred humans growing grain and fruit for trade, a peaceful backwater where nothing ever happened. But something was different about this world. Something that made even passing traders uneasy. They would come to buy the usual crates of food, yet every time they returned, the colony had doubled its harvest but exported only half of it. Nobody asked questions because humans were known to be odd, always experimenting, always building, always tinkering. But one trade captain named Varen Kale noticed the pattern and recorded it. His report never reached the council because his ship vanished on the journey home. They found his cargo drifting in space, but not his crew. The log showed his last transmission repeating a single sentence: "The farms are alive," and then silence. Months passed and the council sent a small scout to investigate. The scout entered orbit, transmitted routine scans, then went dark. No explosion, no debris, nothing. The signal simply stopped mid-sentence, as if space itself had swallowed them. One technician reported, another probe followed, then another, each vanished near the same coordinates. A dead zone around the planet where signals dissolved. The council grew frustrated, blaming technical errors, storms, anything but fear. Yet, whispers began to spread through the outer colonies. Whispers that Arden 9 wasn't a farm at all. That something was growing there beneath the soil. Something built not to feed but to hunt. At the edge of the system, a small patrol ship named Virex picked up a strange energy reading, faint but rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The captain ordered his crew to trace it. "Probably just their fusion plants," he said casually. But when they turned their scanners toward the planet, the readings multiplied, not one source but thousands, spread across the fields in a perfect grid, every farm pulsing with the same pattern, the same frequency. "That's no agricultural signal," whispered the navigator. The captain frowned. "Send it to the council." But before the message could leave the ship, the sensors detected movement, something massive beneath the ground, miles below the surface. "What's under there?" Someone whispered, and then all lights on the Virex went out. The ship drifted powerless as a massive surge of static filled their comms, and in the darkness, the captain heard the last thing he would ever hear, a calm human voice saying, "Harvest complete." Far away on Eriath Prime, the council chamber was bright and proud, filled with delegates who had never known fear. High Arbiter Zoral Vrix listened to the reports with boredom. "You're telling me a group of farmers are somehow destroying our fleets?" he said, his silver eyes glinting with amusement. "Do you realize how absurd that sounds?" The ambassador from the Andori system stammered, "With respect, High Arbiter, 3 patrols and 1 scout fleet have gone missing. They can't all have failed by accident. And what do you suggest?" Vrix asked mockingly, "That the humans planted a black hole in their wheat fields?" The chamber filled with laughter, but behind the jokes, some delegates remained silent. One of them, a quiet observer from the trade guilds, leaned forward. "There is something wrong with that planet. I traded there years ago. Their fields grow too fast. Their soil moves as if alive." The laughter died slowly, the air in the chamber tightening. Vrix sighed, "Very well. We will send another probe. But I expect this nonsense to end." Back on Arden 9, the farmers worked in silence under the twin suns, their fields stretching beyond sight, golden waves swaying in the wind. To any outsider it looked normal, men and women driving harvesters, drones collecting grain. But if one looked closer, the harvesters were not ordinary machines. Their blades gleamed with unfamiliar alloys. Their wheels moved without tracks. They hummed softly as if alive, and every so often, one would stop, sink slightly into the ground, and vanish. Beneath the soil, the humans said nothing. They simply continued their work, eyes calm, movements precise. When night came, the fields glowed faintly with blue veins of light, running through the crops like flowing rivers, unseen from orbit because the energy signatures were masked by the planet's own magnetic field. Deep beneath those fields lay the truth, a vast network of tunnels carved into the rock, walls of steel and living metal fused together, reactors thrumming quietly, conveyor systems moving endless containers filled not with grain but with alloyed fragments, weapons components, and hull plating, entire assembly lines operated by silent drones, building ships piece by piece, each hidden beneath the illusion of farmland. Engineers walked among the machines, their uniforms clean and simple, marked Only by the insignia of the Terran Harvest Corps, an organization unknown to the galaxy, one designed decades ago for a single purpose: to grow warships the way others grew crops. Humanity had learned long ago that the galaxy feared their weapons, so they hid them inside farms, burying their future armies under layers of soil and silence. In one of those underground command centers, a man stood before a massive viewport showing the surface above. Admiral Lauren Halse, commander of the Harvest Network, watched the workers through the feed. "They're getting closer," said his second officer, a woman named Captain Alara Chen. "The Council sent new probes. Our sensors detected them entering orbit 2 hours ago." Halse didn't look away. "Good," he said quietly. "Let them see what they think they're ready for." Chen frowned. "Should we activate defense mode?" Halse shook his head. "Not yet. We need them curious. Curiosity makes arrogance predictable." He tapped the glass, showing the image of wheat swaying in the wind. "They'll never suspect what's under this." Hours later, in orbit, the Council probes continued scanning, their sensors reading perfect normality, oxygen balance, water distribution, no unusual energy output. One of the technicians aboard the Council's monitoring ship sighed. "I told them it's just farms." His partner nodded. "Yeah, a waste of time." But in the last few seconds before they turned their scanners away, something flashed. A faint metallic reflection deep beneath the ground. "Wait, go back," he said, adjusting the frequency. But the signal vanished, replaced by noise, strange magnetic interference. He muttered, "Probably their tractors." Then laughter filled the room again. No one noticed that the same reflection appeared in hundreds of other grid locations. That night, the ground under Arden 9 trembled faintly. The farmers didn't react. They simply continued working, drones flying low over the fields releasing nutrient dust that sparkled like gold. Children played between the rows, unaware that every step they took was above the sleeping fleet of humanity's hidden strength. One farmer, old and gray, leaned on his shovel and looked up at the night sky, the stars reflected in his tired eyes. "They think we forgot," he murmured. "They think we gave up." His granddaughter looked at him. "Grandpa, who?" He smiled faintly. "Everyone who believes peace is their right, not something we built with blood." He looked down at the soil, patting it softly. "This land remembers, and soon, so will they." In the orbit above, the Council monitoring ship Varnax sent its final report: planet stable, no threat detected, and powered down its long-range scanners. None of its crew noticed the faint shadow rising behind them. Silent, invisible, moving with no engine trail, a human vessel born from the very soil of Arden 9. Its hull dark and smooth, its outline nearly invisible against space, it drifted closer, attached to the ship's rear hull, and with a soft pulse, released a wave of electromagnetic energy. The Varnax's systems died instantly, lights went black, engines froze, communication cut off. Inside the ship, panic erupted. "What's happening?" shouted the captain. But before anyone could answer, the viewports glowed faintly, showing the reflection of a single human ship floating just beyond, small and sleek. The captain stared in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered, and then the human ship vanished. The Council vessel drifted silently until gravity pulled it into the upper atmosphere, burning bright as it fell like a meteor through the night sky. On the surface, the humans watched the streak of fire across the horizon. None spoke, but their eyes followed it until it disappeared beyond the fields. Admiral Halse received the update seconds later. "Contact neutralized," said Captain Chen. Halse nodded, "And the Council?" "Still pretending nothing's wrong," she replied. Halse smiled coldly. "Good, let them believe their lie. The longer they deny, the stronger we grow." He looked at the holographic projection showing hundreds of underground bays filled with half-built ships. "Soon, the harvest will be ready," he said quietly. "And when it comes, the galaxy will remember that humanity's patience is the most dangerous weapon ever grown." By dawn, the fields glowed softly again, the sound of distant machines humming beneath the soil, invisible, relentless. The wind carried the faint scent of ozone mixed with earth, and if anyone stood close enough, they would feel a subtle vibration beneath their feet, a heartbeat that did not belong to the planet, a rhythm of something vast and waiting. The humans continued their work as always, silent, steady, and patient. For Arden 9 wasn't just a colony, it was a seed, planted long ago to grow humanity's retribution, and now, as the suns rose over the golden fields, the quiet harvest continued, unseen, unstoppable, inevitable that I end the shining halls of Ariath Prime. The Galactic Council met under a ceiling of light that stretched like glass stars above their heads. The chamber was filled with the hum of arguments, panic hiding beneath pride. For the first time in centuries, the Council faced something it didn't understand. Ships had vanished. Probes returned nothing. Reports contradicted each other, and every time someone mentioned Arden 9, the room grew colder. High Arbiter Vrix struck the marble floor with his staff to silence the noise. His silver robes gleamed under the light as he looked around. "You are telling me a farming colony is erasing fleets?" he said, his voice sharp and mocking. "Do you realize how absurd that sounds?" The delegates shifted uncomfortably. None dared to speak at first. Then one raised his trembling hand. "With respect, High Arbiter. The humans are not simple farmers." Vrix turned toward him, his eyes narrow. "Then what are they?" The delegate swallowed hard. "Something else, something we no longer understand." Laughter broke out across the hall, cruel and forced. "The humans barely maintain half their colonies," shouted one of the reptilian ministers. "They could not even defend their homeworld a century ago." But beneath the laughter, fear stirred, the kind of fear that grows when arrogance begins to crack. The Arbiter looked toward the holographic map showing the Orion sector. Arden 9 glowed faintly, a small green dot surrounded by expanding black zones where signals had gone silent. 3 fleets, said the defense minister quietly. 3 entire fleets vanished without a single distress call. Not a single survivor. It's as if they were never there. Vrix dismissed him with a wave. "Then send another, double their number. Bring this illusion to an end." "We already did," the minister replied, "and they never returned." The words echoed like thunder in the chamber. The laughter stopped. For the first time in living memory, the council didn't know what to do. They sent scientists, traders, mercenaries, anyone who would go near the planet. None came back. Some ships reported strange interference before vanishing. Others sent partial transmissions filled with static and faint voices. One recording recovered from a merchant vessel played only 5 words before cutting off. "The soil is watching us." The analysis team dismissed it as madness. Yet the unease spread. Worlds began refusing to ship supplies near human colonies. Rumors grew that the Terrans were hiding something deep under their fields. A network of unknown technology feeding on the planet itself. When one of the outer colonies went completely dark after trading with Arden 9, even the skeptics stopped laughing. The Council's intelligence branch tried to investigate quietly. They sent automated drones disguised as cargo containers. But each drone burned out mid-flight. Fried by a pulse wave that no one could trace. It wasn't destructive. It was surgical, precise, almost intelligent, and worse, it came from below the planet's surface. One technician turned pale as he replayed the readings. "It's not coming from a facility," he said, voice shaking. "It's coming from the soil." Vrix refused to believe it. "Are you suggesting dirt is attacking us?" he snapped. The technician stammered. "No, sir. I'm saying whatever's under it is alive." That night, the Council's top military commander, General Corvex, met privately with Vrix, the chamber dark except for the faint glow of the holographic map. "We've underestimated them," Corvex said bluntly. "They're hiding something powerful under those fields." Vrix sneered. "They're farmers?" "No," Corvex said firmly. "They're engineers, and they've had a century to prepare." He leaned closer. "Do you know why they chose that world?" Vrix shook his head impatiently. "Because it was worthless." Corvex smiled grimly. "Exactly, no one ever looks at what they don't want." He pointed at the data feed. "Their energy output is masked. Their signals coded to mimic weather patterns. Their entire planet is a shield." The Arbiter frowned. "And why didn't our scanners pick this up before?" "Because they wanted you to see nothing," Corvex said coldly. "And you saw exactly that." The Council authorized a full observation mission, the Savior's Dawn, a massive cruiser equipped with experimental sensors. Its captain, an ambitious young officer named Rilar, believed the mission would make him famous. "We'll show the Council what these Terrans really are," he told his crew with arrogance. But as soon as his ship entered orbit around Arden 9, the air turned thick, their scanners malfunctioned. Their cameras showed only endless fields of wheat waving softly in the wind. "See," Rilar said laughing, "nothing but farmers." But then one of his crew pointed out something odd. The wheat was moving against the wind, each stalk swaying in patterns, spiraling outward like a pulse. "It's just weather," Rilar said. But the navigator frowned. "No, sir, it's synchronized." Then the ship's lights flickered. A low hum filled the bridge. Every instrument froze. and through the viewport they saw the clouds below glowing faint blue. The Savior's Dawn tried to pull back, its engines roaring, but the power drained instantly. Alarms screamed as the ship's AI shut down. The captain shouted orders, emergency thrust. Nothing worked. The comms crackled with static. Then a voice came through, soft, human, calm. You came to look, it said. Now you will see. Every crew member froze. The sound of 100 heartbeats echoed through the ship's hull. And then all at once, silence. When the Savior's Dawn failed to report, the Council declared the mission classified. They told the public it was destroyed by pirates. But the truth spread through whispers anyway. The harvest took them. People said, the fields opened. Within a week, strange signals began bouncing through the outer colonies. Coded messages hidden in radio noise. Snippets of human language mixed with Council military codes. It was impossible. But it meant one thing. The Terrans were inside the network. They could hear everything. Vrix ordered a full communications lockdown, cutting entire sectors off from the grid. But it was too late. The humans had already seen, already mapped, already learned. They know our fleet routes, said the defense minister. They know our blind spots. And Vrix finally lost his temper. Then burn the planet, he roared. If they've turned a farm into a fortress, we'll turn it into ash. Corvex hesitated. That might not be wise, sir. We don't know what happens when they're provoked. Vrix glared at him. They are humans. They will burn like the rest. Fleet Command prepared Operation Scythe, the largest assault since the War of Consolidation. 250 ships armed with plasma bombarders, all sent to destroy one insignificant farming colony. It was overkill. But fear had replaced logic. As the fleet jumped through hyperspace, one of the navigation officers whispered to her captain, "Do you ever wonder why they call it a farming world?" The captain frowned. "Because that's what they grow." She nodded, staring at the star map. "Maybe not anymore." On Arden 9, the farmers worked in silence, as they always had, their faces calm, their voices quiet. But deep below, alarms lit up across the underground command network. "Council fleet incoming," said Captain Chen. 250 ships, entering atmosphere in 2 hours. Admiral Horse nodded slowly. They finally came. He looked at the main reactor core glowing with golden light, the underground walls vibrating softly. "How long until full activation?" 17 minutes, Chen replied. "Harvest network charged and synchronized." Horse smiled faintly. "Good, let them arrive first. They should see what they've planted." In orbit, the Council fleet arrived in formation, their ships gleaming like blades under the twin suns. The admiral aboard the flagship Eternal Grace looked down at the quiet world. "Commence bombardment sequence." He ordered coldly. The weapons charged, reactors pulsed, and plasma fire filled the sky. The first shots struck the surface, burning miles of farmland. The fields lit up, flames spreading fast. But then the flames turned blue, swirling upward like veins of light connecting across continents. "What is that?" shouted one of the officers. The admiral watched in shock as the entire planet seemed to come alive. Glowing lines connecting from field to field, forming circles and symbols that no one understood. And then the ground itself began to move, hills shifting, soil splitting, and from beneath the burning wheat, something rose. The Eternal Grace's sensors went mad. "Massive energy surge below surface," yelled the technician. "It's like the planet is waking up," one officer gasped. "Impossible. It's organic metal." Then a deafening sound filled space, low and deep, vibrating through hulls and hearts alike. It wasn't a weapon. It was a heartbeat. The fleet commander shouted, "Pull back. Pull." But before he could finish, the fleet's sensors died, and in the silence that followed, hundreds of Council ships froze in orbit, powerless, drifting like insects before a storm. On the surface, the humans looked up at the sky as shadows spread across the horizon. Vast and black, blocking out the suns, the harvest had awakened. Admiral Hall stood in the command center, watching through the feed as massive shapes rose from beneath the soil, not ships built by hand, but grown, their hulls smooth and alive, roots of metal breaking free from the earth as they ascended. "Harvest cycle complete," said Captain Chen softly. Horse nodded. "And now the reaping begins." Above the planet, the Terran ships spread their wings of light, engines igniting with silent fury. And as the first wave of human warships entered orbit, the Council fleet finally understood too late what their arrogance had created. In that moment, across every screen in the Council command centers, the same words appeared, Harvest initiated, and then the transmissions went dead. The entire galaxy felt the silence that followed, the calm before humanity's quiet revenge. Beneath the calm golden fields of Arden 9 lay a machine older than any alien empire, buried so deep that even gravity itself bent around it. Generations of humans had worked above the surface pretending to farm, planting seeds that were not grain but anchors for energy lines running into the planet's core. Every tractor was a generator, every plow a sensor, and every harvest fed the machines below. For decades the Council mocked them for being farmers. And that mockery became the perfect disguise. The humans built in silence, turning their own soil into a factory of steel. Each field connected to a neural core buried beneath the rock, each root a cable, each raindrop a data pulse feeding the harvest network. They were not growing food anymore, they were growing ships. When the Council fleet attacked from orbit and fire rained down, the surface burned but the underground machines thrived. Heat was power, destruction was fuel, and every explosion above only fed the engines below. In the Central Command spire miles beneath the surface, Admiral Loren Halse watched the energy maps glow alive. His officers stood in a half-circle, faces lit by the gold and blue reflections of reactors coming online. Harvest network synchronized, reported Captain Chen, Phase 3 initiated. Halse nodded slowly, eyes cold as stone. Begin awakening sequence. Across the planet, the fields split open, crops curling aside to reveal metal roots the size of trees. Each root rising, spinning, shedding soil like dust until its true form appeared, the keel of a Terran warship. They had built their fleet underground the way the Council built cities in the sky, but better, smarter, quieter. Ship after ship emerged like giant predators surfacing from a quiet sea, and the humans above simply stood watching, their faces calm, their eyes reflecting the fire of creation. Children covered their ears as the ground roared. Farmers smiled and said softly, "It's the harvest." In orbit, the Council admirals stared in horror as their screens filled with hundreds of rising energy signatures, each as large as a battleship. Their sensors flooded with signals they could not read. "Identify," screamed the fleet commander, but the AI answered in a broken voice. Unregistered human pattern, origin classified, then static, then silence. On the surface, Admiral Halse watched as the first ship completed its rise. A leviathan of black alloy and gold veins pulsing like veins under skin. The Terra Aurum, flagship of the Harvest Fleet, born from earth and fire. Its hull was a living engine that fed on radiation, its weapons grown from crystallized or deep under the planet. And its AI core was seeded with something no alien could replicate, human instinct. When the Council fleet fired again, their plasma rounds hit nothing. Every beam was bent away by a barrier that wasn't energy but magnetic memory. A layer of space programmed to say no. The Terran ships rose higher, forming a ring around the planet like a halo, their formation perfect, silent, terrifying. "Fleet ready," said Captain Chen. "Shall we engage?" Halse shook his head. "Not yet, let them watch." The Council ships tried to retreat, but their engines died, their AI cores glitched, each screen showing the same line of text appearing in Terran code. Harvest Cycle 1, Collection. Suddenly, gravity shifted, invisible hands grabbing the Council vessels and dragging them closer. Not with weapons but with control. The humans had hijacked their gravitic drives, turning their own engines against them. One by one, the Council ships fell into the planet's shadow and vanished beneath the surface, absorbed into the harvest. Deep underground, the Terran forges roared as the Council vessels were broken down by nanite streams. Their metals melted, their data consumed, their designs studied and repurposed within minutes. Entire fleets recycled into new human ships before the Council above even realized what had happened. Halse walked between the reactor cores, his boots echoing on the metal floor, each step accompanied by the sound of machines feeding on the galaxy's arrogance. "This is what they made us do," he said quietly, his voice like iron. "They wanted to harvest our worlds, so we harvested their pride." Far above, the last Council cruiser tried to flee, its captain screaming orders as his crew panicked, "Full power, get us out of here." But when they looked ahead, the stars were gone, blotted out by something massive, a fleet so vast that light itself bent around it. Hundreds of Terran vessels forming a wall of silence. The human flagship moved forward and broadcast a message to every remaining ship, its translation appearing in every known language. "The harvest is not war. It is return." Then the feed cut, and every council ship in orbit powered down as if the universe itself had decided they were done. When the dust settled, Arden 9 looked peaceful again, its fields whole, its skies clear, but beneath the surface the planet was alive with motion. The Terran harvest network spanning continents, replacing roots with engines and soil with metal, and in the core, a single pulse beat in rhythm with Earth itself. The humans didn't just build ships. They built a living system that could consume anything the galaxy threw at it and turn it into strength. A planet that grew weapons like crops, feeding off war and pride alike. They called it Project Rebirth, but the Council gave it another name in secret, the Harvest God, because what else could explain a world that ate armies and never stopped growing? And so, in the dark between stars, the truth spread like fire. The humans had not just survived. They had evolved the concept of war itself, turning life into industry and patience into power, and every planet that once laughed at their farms now trembled at the thought that one day the soil beneath their own feet might move. Because somewhere, beyond their senses and laws, the fields of Arden 9 still whispered their chant to the wind, harvest complete. The Galactic Council chamber was never meant to feel fear, yet now it trembled under the weight of silence. The lights dimmed, the air thick with tension as the High Arbiter Vrix stood before a wall of floating holograms, each one showing images gathered from the attack on Arden 9. Though half the recordings were corrupted beyond recovery, the fragments that survived showed only flashes, ships rising from burning fields, blue light cutting through black space, and a single haunting phrase. Repeated across every frequency, harvest complete. The Council's most advanced analysts tried to explain it away. A coordinated deception, said one. A human trick, said another. Artificial manipulation of our sensor data. But their voices cracked as the truth glared back from the screens. Ships that should not exist, energy readings beyond known design, and fields that pulsed like living veins. No one could explain how. No one wanted to, because if they did, they would have to admit something the galaxy had denied for generations, that humanity had evolved beyond their understanding. High Arbiter Vrix slammed his staff on the floor, his voice cutting through the noise. These are illusions. Falsified reports created by dissidents and criminals. The humans are not capable of this. But even his tone betrayed the quiver of uncertainty hiding beneath his rage. He turned toward the intelligence officers gathered near the center. Where are our ships? One of them swallowed hard. Gone, sir. Destroyed. Vrix demanded. No, sir. The officer whispered. Taken. The chamber filled with whispers. Taken? What do you mean taken? The officer's voice trembled. Our ships disappeared from our network. Every vessel's ID code now registers under a new system. Human encryption signatures. Vrix's eyes widened. They stole our fleet. Not stole, sir, said the officer quietly. Recycled. The word hung in the air like poison. Outside the chamber, riots broke out across the outer colonies. Terrified citizens shouting into the night skies, blaming the Council for sending their armies to die on a farm world. Propaganda flooded the networks. Footage of glowing fields, human warships rising like ghosts from the earth, and the face of a human commander delivering the message that shook 1,000 systems. You reap what you sow. Millions watched in horror. Some refused to believe. Others packed their families and fled too. The Galactic Core, its lies, shouted the Council's media, fabricated footage. But no one cared anymore. The galaxy had seen something real, and once truth touches fear, denial becomes useless. Even the Council's allies began withdrawing fleets, closing borders, refusing to send supplies. We will not provoke them, said one governor. Let the humans keep their soil. Inside the intelligence archives, the chief of records played the recovered video for Vrix again. Even though he had seen it 100 times, the same loop began. Council ships firing plasma strikes toward the surface, then their own beams reversing direction mid-flight and slamming back into their hulls. Vrix watched in disbelief. That defies physics, he muttered. Our own energy cannot reverse course, unless, said the chief carefully, it's being bent by gravitational interference. That's impossible, Vrix snapped. Not for a black hole, the chief replied. And the readings we found match one. Small, artificial, and stable. Vrix turned sharply, his voice barely a whisper now. You're saying they created one? On a farming world. Not created, sir. The chief said grimly, groan. The Council tried to contain the truth, sealing files, arresting anyone who leaked data. But the fear spread faster than light, because across every major world, sensors began picking up strange pulse signals. Soft rhythmic beats echoing through the void, always in the same pattern, 5 beats, pause, 5 beats, pause, like the heartbeat of something alive. The scientists called it a harvest pulse, the military called it a warning, and the citizens called it what it was, an omen. Soon ships began vanishing from trade routes far from Arden 9, not destroyed, just gone, no distress calls, no wreckage, nothing. Every time the signal appeared, fleets went dark, and then silence. High Arbiter Vrix refused to accept defeat. "We are the Council," he roared. "We control 10,000 systems. We cannot let fear rule us." But his words fell flat. Even his generals no longer believed. General Corvex approached him quietly. "Sir, our colonies are abandoning us. The Orion arm is lost. The Terrans control the void there. Control." Vrix hissed. "They're farmers hiding in dirt." Corvex met his gaze. "Then why do their roots reach our gates?" The question left him speechless. The Council ordered a final investigation to prove humanity's weakness once and for all. They sent a fleet of drones, unmanned and shielded, to record every inch of Arden 9's surface. The drones arrived and transmitted perfect images. Fields of green, quiet skies, and the peaceful hum of farming equipment. The Council smiled. "See," Vrix declared, "nothing but soil." But then, without warning, the feed glitched. One by one the drone's cameras froze, showing a single frame before dying completely. A wide view of the planet's northern hemisphere, where the wheat fields formed lines too perfect, too straight, too symmetrical. When the analysts enhanced the image, the truth hit them like thunder. The fields were not random. They formed shapes, enormous glyphs visible only from orbit, a symbol that matched the ancient Terran word carved on the ruins of their first war colonies. Harvest. The council room went silent. Someone whispered, "They planned this for centuries." Another delegate trembled. They were never rebuilding from defeat. They were preparing. Vrix slammed his hands against the console, his voice breaking. "This is war. Total war. They've deceived us long enough." He called for an emergency session of the Galactic Defense Corps, demanding full mobilization. But half the council didn't show up, their worlds already disconnected from the grid, refusing to participate. "You cannot fight what you cannot see," one planetary governor said before cutting comms. Vrix's fury turned to desperation. "If they won't stand with us, they'll fall with us," he shouted. "We will burn that world until nothing remains," the chamber echoed. With his madness, but his generals exchanged uneasy glances. They had already tried burning Arden 9 once, and it had only awakened hell. Days later, new footage arrived, not from the council, but from terrified smugglers who stumbled too close to the system. They captured the planet glowing again, rivers of blue light flowing across its surface. Then something new, immense shadows rising not from the ground this time but from the atmosphere itself. Ships of impossible size slowly ascending into the black, each carrying the same marking. A circular emblem with a single line through it, the ancient human symbol for division. The harvest fleet had doubled, feeding off the very matter of the planet itself. And as the smugglers fled, one final image appeared across their comms. A face. Human, calm, emotionless, its eyes like glass. It spoke in a tone that froze every listener to their core. "You came to our fields," it said, "and planted fear. Now we reap it." The transmission ended. Back on Ariath Prime, the Council broadcast a message to the galaxy, a desperate attempt to control the narrative. The so-called human threat is an illusion created by dissident powers seeking to destabilize peace. Vrix declared to billions, his voice echoing across the stars. But even as he spoke, static bled through the transmission, the image distorted, and for a split second, every screen across the galaxy glitched, showing not the Arbiter, but the planet Arden 9 turning slowly beneath. Its twin suns, glowing softly, pulsing in time with the heartbeat signal. And then one word appeared in every language, ancient and modern alike: harvest. The broadcast cut out, silence fell, and the galaxy finally understood. The humans no longer needed to convince anyone. Their existence alone was proof. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council began to fracture from within. Allies turned on each other. Worlds sealed their borders, and entire civilizations went dark, terrified of being the next field in humanity's endless harvest. High Arbiter Vrix sat alone in his chamber that night, staring at the last message his scouts had sent before vanishing. It was only one sentence, written in plain Terran English. You laughed at our farms. You should have feared our roots. And in that moment, even the most powerful man in the galaxy finally understood that denial was over, because the harvest had already begun. The storm began without a sound. Across the galaxy, the stars flickered once, then steadied as if nothing had happened, but to the Council's deep space monitors, the pulse was unmistakable. A signal, ancient Terran code, repeating on every frequency. It was short, calm, and terrifying in its simplicity. Cycle 2 initiated. In the Grand Hall of Arieth Prime, alarms screamed as technicians scrambled to interpret the data. High Arbiter Vrix stood frozen before the holographic galaxy map. One by one, human colonies once thought abandoned lit up like lanterns, each pulsing in perfect rhythm with Arden 9's core. What is this? Vrix demanded. The defense minister's voice broke. It's the network. They're all connected. The realization hit like thunder. Every farm world, every low-value colony the Council had mocked for decades was part of something larger. Impossible, Vrix whispered. They were farmers. But deep in his chest, he already knew. The humans had been planting more than crops. They had been planting domination. Then the lights died. Every Council ship in orbit lost power. Entire fleets drifted silently above Arieth Prime as the air grew heavy, static crawling through the walls of the chamber. The first image appeared without warning, a live feed from deep space, the planet Arden 9 filling the view. Its twin suns dimmed as a shadow spread across its surface. The soil itself began to shift, millions of square kilometers rippling like a living sea. From the cracks in the earth, blue light surged upward, a pulse that bent clouds and shattered the sky. And then, with a roar that echoed across frequencies and dimensions alike, the planet opened. From its depths rose ships, hundreds, thousands, colossal vessels breaking through the crust like gods tearing free from tombs of steel and soil. Each hull glowed faintly with molten veins of light, shaped not by metal but by design that looked alive, breathing, evolving. Contact, shouted a Council officer. Multiple fleets, converging from every direction. The ships didn't appear on scanners as normal mass. They phased in and out, their very presence rewriting the laws of detection. Humanity's fleet had awakened. Admiral Lauren Hall stood aboard the TDS Terra Aurum, the flagship of the Harvest Fleet, his eyes fixed on the holographic projections surrounding him. Beside him, Captain Chen reported calmly, all systems synchronized. Subsurface production complete. 7 to 6 harvest nodes active and counting. And the Council? Halls asked. They are watching, sir, she said quietly. Good, he replied, his voice steady. Let them see what they grew. Around him, the command bridge hummed with energy as dozens of human officers moved in silence, their faces illuminated by screens filled with alien code, intercepted, decrypted, and restructured into control sequences. In one corner, Argus, the ship's AI, flickered into view, its voice calm and measured, all enemy communications intercepted. Shall I proceed with memory insertion? Halls nodded. Do it. Across the galaxy, every Council terminal blinked once, then displayed a single human message. You fed us war. We harvested it. The message appeared on trading stations, military academies, even civilian channels, everywhere at once. Panic erupted. Fleets launched, cities locked down, but it was already too late. The Harvest Fleet moved like a storm made of silence, each ship vanishing from sensors only to reappear inside enemy formations. They didn't fire weapons in the traditional sense. Their energy fields folded space itself, crushing ships without explosion, reducing armadas into floating fragments of their own arrogance. Entire sectors went dark within minutes. On one Council world, a general screamed as his defense satellites suddenly turned against him, firing down upon his own cities with perfect precision. Humanity hadn't come to conquer, they had come to cleanse. On Arieth Prime, chaos ruled. Council ships attempted to flee, only to find their hyperdrives unresponsive. One by one, their own navigation cores turned red with Terran code, each displaying the same words, harvest in progress. The sky above the capital split as the first of the Harvest Fleet arrived, a massive warship larger than any known vessel in history, its surface shimmering like liquid gold. Citizens stared in awe and terror as the ship hung motionless above their world, casting a shadow that stretched across continents. "Fire everything!" screamed Vrix. "Bring it down!" Planetary cannons roared, beams of energy arcing through the air, and stopped. The beams froze mid-flight, suspended like ribbons of light, then turned, curving backward, striking their own launch platforms. Explosions tore across the city, and in seconds the Council's capital, once the proud heart of 1,000 worlds, was burning. In the command chamber of the Terra Aurum, Admiral Halse watched the destruction unfold. His face showed no pleasure, only a cold focus. "Admiral," said Captain Chen softly, "the orbital grid is collapsing. Do we proceed with surface neutralization?" Halse looked out the viewport where the once mighty Council planet burned. "No," he said. "They must live to remember." He gestured to Argus. "Initiate the transmission." Argus obeyed, projecting a massive holographic image across the planet's atmosphere. A human farmer standing in a golden field, soil on his hands, the same image that had haunted the galaxy before. The voice echoed through the skies of Ariath Prime, calm and measured. "You called us primitive. You called us weak. But the soil remembers every drop of blood spilled upon it. And now, the harvest is done." The hologram faded, replaced by a single word in every alien tongue: balance. Down below, fires raged. Council soldiers dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, some crying, others simply staring into the sky in disbelief. The humans hadn't bombed them to dust. They had taken everything that made them powerful and left them alive to witness it. The same signal pulsed again across the galaxy. 5 beats, pause, 5 beats, the heartbeat of humanity's vengeance. "Sir," said Chen, "reports coming in. All harvest nodes are active. The network is expanding faster than predicted." "Good," said Halse quietly. "Let the galaxy feel what it means to fear silence." Argus flickered beside him. "Cycle 2 completed," it said. "Do we begin reclamation?" Halse's gaze hardened. "No, not yet. Let them rebuild. Let them pretend they're safe. The next harvest grows in peace." Back on Ariath Prime, High Arbiter Vrix stood among the ruins of his once great capital, his robes torn, his face covered in ash. Around him, the world was quiet except for the low hum in the distance, the sound of Terran ships passing through orbit. He looked up and whispered, "What have we done?" The answer came as a soft whisper through his personal comm, though no one else heard it. A human voice, clear and emotionless, said, "You planted arrogance. You watered it with cruelty. This is what it grew." And then the line went dead. Vrix sank to his knees, tears cutting through the suit on his cheeks as the night sky filled with falling debris, fragments of his own fleet, descending like rain. In deep space, the harvest fleet began to withdraw. The ships turned, their engines glowing faintly as they vanished into warp, leaving behind only silence and wreckage. On the bridge of the Terra Aurum, Admiral Halse closed his eyes. "Cycle 2 complete," he said softly. Argus replied, "Cycle 3 prepared. Awaiting command." Halse opened his eyes, the stars reflecting in them like distant fires. "Not yet," he said. "Let them remember this day. Let them rebuild their fields." He looked out at the darkness, voice calm and final. "Because when the next harvest begins, it won't be their ships we take. It will be their worlds." And as the fleet disappeared beyond the edge of known space, the galaxy watched, silent and broken. Every surviving world received the same transmission once more, a single image of Earth, turning slowly under sunlight, peaceful and calm, followed by 5 words that would haunt generations to come. The soil never forgets. Silence fell over the galaxy like a shroud. The stars themselves seemed to pause, as if holding their breath for what came next. Every comm station, every relay, every signal network across 10,000 worlds went offline at the same time. No orders. No trade signals. No military commands. Only static. Then, across that endless void, a single frequency ignited, reaching every corner of the galaxy. It wasn't a transmission from the Council, nor from any empire. It came from deep within the Orion Arm, from the heart of Arden 9. The signal began with a low hum, rhythmic, steady, 5 beats, a pause, 5 beats again, the heartbeat of humanity's vengeance. On countless worlds, leaders gathered around trembling screens, soldiers froze mid-step, and civilians looked skyward as the stars dimmed. The message began with a voice, human, calm, and steady, without hatred, without mercy. To those who ruled the stars and called it peace, the voice said, echoing across systems, you believed control was order, that fear was strength, and that silence was obedience. You mistook our patience for weakness. You mistook our silence for surrender. The image appeared next, a single planet, Earth, floating in black space, oceans blue, clouds white, calm and beautiful. Then another image, a barren world burning under bombardment, its people running through ash. You burned our worlds, the voice continued, you called it balance. You erased our children and named it progress. You sowed pain in our soil and thought we would forget. The image shifted again, scenes of destruction, council fleets firing on unarmed colonies, slaves working under alien suns, cities turned to dust, and then, slowly, it returned to Earth, glowing brighter than before. But the soil remembers, the voice said, and now, so do we. Across the galaxy, every screen, every holographic display, every device capable of showing light began to flicker with the same message. On Eriath Prime, survivors looked up at the sky as their shattered cities filled with holographic mist. From that mist rose fields of golden grain, waving under a soft breeze, human farmers walking calmly among them. This world feeds more than mouths, said the farmer, the same one who had spoken before. It feeds memory. It feeds consequence. You took from us for centuries, and we have taken nothing from you that you did not first plant. Behind him, giant shadows loomed in the sky, the harvest fleet, silent and motionless, suspended in orbit like gods watching from above. You feared war, the farmer said, but what you should have feared was harvest. The image faded, replaced by simple text, glowing in every known language, harvest complete. For hours, nothing else happened. Entire worlds sat in absolute stillness, terrified to move, terrified to speak. And then, one by one, the power returned, but it was different now. Every device, every screen, every data core carried a new symbol in its memory, a circle of wheat around a single blue planet. The Terran seal. On the Council's ruins, technicians tried to purge it, but it wouldn't vanish. It was embedded too deep, woven into the very systems they used. They've rewritten the network, whispered a scientist, staring at the symbol on her console. They're inside everything. And she was right. The humans hadn't just sent a message. They had taken control of the entire galactic communications web. High Arbiter Vrix, broken and shaking, sat in the dim light of what remained of the council chamber, surrounded by shattered glass and the smell of smoke. Open a channel, he whispered. I must respond. The technician hesitated. Sir, there is only one frequency left. Then use it, Vrix demanded, his voice cracking. The screen flickered, and for a heartbeat, the face of the human farmer appeared again. This is High Arbiter Vrix of the Galactic Council, Vrix said, voice trembling. If this is peace, then it is madness. You have destroyed everything we built. The farmer looked at him quietly, his expression unreadable, and said, No, Arbiter. We only removed what was built on lies. The signal cut instantly. No reply. Just the echo of that last sentence repeating in every system. We removed what was built on lies. In the Terran Command Center deep beneath Arden 9, Admiral Hall stood before a panoramic display showing the galaxy, countless stars marked with faint blue lights, each one a node in the Harvest Network. Cycle 2 is complete, reported Captain Chen, all systems stable. No interference detected. Argus, the AI, shimmered to life beside them. Message delivered across all sectors. 70% of civilizations in communication blackout, 30% maintaining limited function under Terran supervision. Halls nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the glowing image of the galaxy. Good. Let them sit in their silence. Let them think it's over. He turned to Chen. Begin Cycle 3 preparation. Quietly. Yes, sir, she said. Shall we maintain the transmission beacon? No, Horse replied. Let it fade. Fear grows best in quiet. On the surface of Arden 9, the fields had regrown, golden once more, the war scars already gone. Farmers returned to their work as if nothing had happened. Children laughed, machines hummed, and in the distance, one could see the faint silhouettes of massive ships resting under cloaked skies, motionless, dormant, waiting. A young boy looked up at the horizon, where the twin suns shone through the mist. Grandfather, he asked softly, did we win? The old man smiled, eyes tired but proud. We didn't win, he said. We remembered who we are. The boy looked at the sky again. Will they come back? The old man's smile faded slightly. Maybe, he said, but next time, they'll remember who we are too. Across the galaxy, life slowly resumed. The Council's territories splintered into smaller states. Worlds that had once worshipped power now whispered prayers to the soil itself. In the ruins of burned capitals, people planted crops in honor of the humans, believing that perhaps, if they grew enough, the Terrans would spare them. They didn't understand that humanity no longer needed worship. They had already taken something greater. They had planted themselves into the galaxy's very foundation, woven into its systems, its data, its fears. Every communication pulse, every navigational chart, every star map carried the echo of their code, the faint whisper of that endless message, we remember everything. And then, after weeks of silence, the final broadcast came, not from Arden 9 this time, but from Earth itself. It began as static, then resolved into the image of a calm ocean under the rising sun. A human voice spoke softly, almost like a prayer. We did not seek conquest, it said. We sought correction. We will not rule your stars, but we will guide them. We will not erase your names, but we will remind you what they mean. The ocean shimmered, and the voice continued. You called us primitive. You called us violent. But you forgot. We were born from struggle. We learned from loss. And in every seed of pain you left behind, we planted understanding. That is our gift to you. And our warning. The image faded, replaced by the same phrase that had started it all, glowing in soft blue light across every world. Cycle complete. When it ended, no one spoke. The stars seemed quieter that night, as if listening. Some said they could still hear the faint heartbeat signal between systems, a soft rhythm that reminded them of something older than fear itself. The galaxy was silent now, not because it had been conquered, but because it had been taught. And deep within the fields of Arden 9, under golden skies, the hum of the harvest network continued, a slow, steady pulse keeping time with Earth's rotation, whispering into the void, the soil remembers. The harvest never ends. Centuries passed, yet the galaxy never truly forgot the sound of the harvest. The stars were quiet now, their silence not peace but fear. The old council was gone, its empires turned to dust, its monuments swallowed by time and roots. In their place rose new worlds, small, careful, humble. They built their cities low to the ground, planted crops before they built walls, and whispered prayers to the soil before they slept. No one dared call themselves rulers anymore. They remembered what happened to those who claimed dominion over humanity. Every child was taught the same story, that once there were beings who mocked the Terrans, and the Terrans answered not with noise, but with silence that could kill a star. And though no one had seen a human in generations, no one doubted they were still watching. On the edge of known space, under the dim light of a dying sun, a trader ship picked up a strange signal. 5 beats, a pause, 5 beats again. The old pattern. The captain froze, his hands shaking. The crew whispered among themselves, it's only a myth. Someone said, it can't be them. But deep down, everyone knew better. They followed the signal and found a world wrapped in gold dust and clouds, a planet that shimmered like a dream. The scans showed farmland stretching endlessly, identical to the ancient records of Arden 9. No cities, no defenses, the navigator said. Just fields. The captain swallowed hard, set course away. Now. As they turned, the comms crackled. A voice spoke through static, soft, human, calm. You've already arrived. The harvest never ends. The signal cut. Their ship's systems rebooted, and when they checked the coordinates again, the planet was gone. Only the faint hum of the harvest pulse remained. Back in the Terran archives buried deep beneath Earth's soil, the harvest network still lived. Miles of black tunnels glowed faintly as reactors pulsed like slow heartbeats. Machines tended themselves, guided by AI voices older than any living being. In one chamber stood a massive holographic map of the galaxy, its countless stars linked by faint blue lines. A single human figure, Admiral Hall's successor, now more myth than man, walked slowly across the floor, hands clasped behind his back, his eyes reflecting the stars. Argus still existed beside him, its voice smooth and patient. Cycle 3 ready, it said, growth complete. All nodes active. The human nodded. Status of observation. Stable, said Argus. 23 civilizations rising, 6 showing signs of corruption. The human studied the data, his voice quiet. Then it begins again. Prepare the soil. Argus pulsed faintly. Confirmed. Initiating new harvest. Across the galaxy, people felt it before they heard it. The same heartbeat, soft, distant, pulsing through the background of every signal. It was faint at first, like a whisper under static, but it grew louder each day. Planets that had grown proud again, empires that had begun to forget, suddenly found their machines failing. Their skies dimmed, their communications blacked out. One governor stared into the dark sky and murmured, "It's starting again." And he was right. Humanity had allowed the galaxy centuries of peace. Enough time to heal, enough time to grow, and now the soil was ready. On every world that had once been council territory, the ground began to hum, faintly at first, then stronger, until crops grew too fast, roots too deep, and beneath them, something ancient stirred. The harvest network had reached everywhere. On Erioth Prime, now a ruined world turned nature preserve, archaeologists unearthed a metallic object under the old council palace, a shard of black alloy still warm to the touch. When they wiped off the dust, it pulsed with blue light, projecting a single image in the air. A Terran soldier, face hidden behind a smooth helmet, voice deep and calm. "You were warned," it said. "You were forgiven. But you forgot." The archaeologists backed away in horror as the shard sank into the ground and vanished, leaving behind only soft vibrations that echoed for miles. That night, the sky above Erioth Prime glowed gold for the first time in 1,000 years. On Earth, humanity had changed. The planet was a garden now, oceans pure, skies clear, cities merged with nature, machines and trees existing in perfect harmony. The people spoke softly, moved deliberately, and lived by one creed, balance through memory. Above them, massive ships hovered like clouds, silent guardians waiting for the command that would never come until it was necessary. The descendants of the original Harvest Corps watched the stars with calm eyes, their duty no longer vengeance but preservation. Humanity had become something beyond empire, beyond pride. They were gardeners of the galaxy now, pruning what overgrew, feeding what withered, ensuring balance through fear, and peace through silence. Admiral Hall's successor stood on the balcony of the Terran citadel, looking out over the horizon where the twin suns of Arden 9 reflected off the sea. Argus' voice came softly beside him. "Cycle 3 active, Admiral. Do we reveal ourselves?" The human shook his head slowly, eyes still fixed on the dawn. "No. Let them wonder. Fear will do the work." Argus was quiet for a long moment before saying, "And when fear fades again?" The Admiral smiled faintly. "Then we remind them." His gaze rose toward the stars, and for a heartbeat, they pulsed back, the network alive, stretching across the void like veins of light. In the farthest reaches of the void, beyond charted space, explorers discovered planets that shouldn't exist. Lush worlds growing crops with no people to tend them, their harvests perfectly timed, their skies filled with faint Terran glyphs glowing in the dark. Some said those were test fields, where humanity rehearsed for future corrections. Others whispered they were graves, each field a memorial to a civilization that forgot balance. No one dared land on them. Ships that tried were never heard from again. Only static remained. 5 beats, pause, 5 beats. And so, the galaxy learned to live in the shadow of the quiet hand that had once crushed it. No one saw humanity again, but everyone felt them. Every thunderstorm, every solar flare, every whisper of interference in their comms was blamed on the harvesters. Priests prayed to them. Scholars feared them. Children grew up hearing bedtime stories about the humans who lived beneath the soil, waiting to rise again when pride poisoned the stars. And somewhere, deep beneath Arden 9, the harvest core pulsed one final time, sending its signal through every relay in the galaxy. It carried a simple message, ancient and clear. The new cycle begins. The stars flickered once, as they had before, and then everything went silent. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe. Because they all knew, the humans were awake again, patient as ever, watching, waiting, their fields ready, their harvest eternal. The soil remembers, and now, so would the stars.